John Wertz here, Montgomery County Tea Party. We are here to interview Andy DuBois for the Woodlands Township position 7. With me is Larry Rogers, Bob Bagley, James Byers, David Smith, Dale Fessenden, Dennis Smith, and Pat Tibbs. Dennis Tibbs and Pat Tibbs. As we discussed, Andy, if you want to kick us off, you can open up with your 5-minute opening, or up to 5 minutes, and then we'll go do Q&A around the table, and you have up to 2 minutes to answer each of the questions.
Okay. My name is Andy DuBois. I'm running for position 7 on the Woodlands Township Board of Directors. I decided to run because I've long been a member of the community, 20 years, serving it through positions with Houston Community Newspapers and Media Group for most of that time, in different editor positions, executive editor, and many times individuals had asked me to run for office. Now that I'm no longer in the newspaper and media business, it was a great opportunity to serve my community in this role with the Special Purpose District, this non-paid voluntary position that I want to serve my friends, my neighbors, and all of the residents of the Woodlands. The reason I chose to run was because I wanted to bring a level of truth and transparency, especially concerning the push for incorporation in the Woodlands. I believe that there are many omissions and oversights regarding the costs associated with incorporation. I want to bring those out. I want everything fully vetted so residents know the potential costs, tax rate involved, and any benefits that may be realized from incorporation. My experience in the community, my level of integrity and ethics, and the way I've handled myself both in editors' roles and in the community, as well as my accessibility, make me a very qualified candidate to serve on the Woodlands Township Board of Directors.
All right, thank you. And thanks again for coming out tonight. Okay, so obviously, kind of right now, you're against incorporation. Right.
I oppose rushed incorporation. My views on it from what I've read in the studies, I believe that there are costs in there and not in there that have been overlooked. I believe that everything needs to be on the table before it's presented to residents for a vote. I don't believe there are any benefits at this time, therefore I oppose rushed incorporation. We have until 2057, based on our regional participation agreement with Houston and Conroe. There is no rush to move forward with this. Recent legislation also would protect us thereafter if that legislation stays in place. So yes, right now I am opposed to incorporation. However, I believe it is up to the residents in the end.
How far along are we in the studies? And you said we're lacking. What are we lacking right now to get us to that point?
Okay, so the schedule is that they should have final analysis and studies to the board and a proposed tax rate by the December meeting. So any individual running for the township board who says that we should wait until the studies are in, well, the studies are pretty much in. We only have a few months. So if you're a candidate and you're not reading up on those studies, then you better get in gear, because it's going to come up if you're elected, and in December you better be ready, prepared to discuss it, both the tax rate and the costs. So what's been omitted? Certain things, specifically law enforcement. One of the things that if you look at law enforcement, the costs, if the Woodlands incorporates and contracts back with the county, immediately it's a $2 million plus increase in costs with no additional services associated with it. And that's, to me, double taxation. Residents of the Woodlands are already paying the county for 25.5 officers. Why would the Woodlands Township incorporate and then contract back for those 25.5 officers? On top of that, there's about a $6.5 million cost deduction in the initial study for the vehicles. Well, the fact is that if you talk to the county attorney's office, those vehicle titles are in the county's names. They're in the county's names. that will not be owned property of the township. They'll have to basically fork over the cost for new vehicles.
Didn't the Woodlands buy those?
The Woodlands contract is for services. In the services, it includes payment for those vehicles. However, those vehicles were purchased by the county. If you talk to the county attorney's office, I'm sure the sheriff as well, they would say those vehicles are owned by the county.
When they title those back over to the Woodlands?
That would be a legal issue between the county and the township, and without payment, I don't think that would happen.
And so that would be is your alarm not going?
It went off, you just didn't.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll follow up with that 2 million I want to know more about.
Getting back to the questionnaire, your answer on the why or why not, and you said that Woodlands should remain unincorporated because it does not align with the values of limited government and fiscal responsibility. Incorporation would unnecessarily increase the cost of some of the services. Can you just give me an overview of what some of the cost increases would be?
So for services, you're talking about, basically I'll start out with road maintenance. The county provides road maintenance and road repairs, road improvements to the Woodlands. At this time, they provide 24-hour service in terms of natural disasters, emergencies, clearing roads, debris from roads. The Woodlands does not have that. They have a contract for streetscape service right now, which is going up because they're taking over the development company's portion of that. So it'll be a little over $1 million more than it was this year. But they do not have anybody on staff who can handle open ditches, ensuring that drainage is properly graded in open ditches. The county, specifically precinct 3 at least, has grade-all operators, grade-alls, dump trucks, sweepers. None of that is owned by the township. They would have to make heavy capital purchases in order to have that equipment, or else they would have to contract back with the county for those maintenance services, which again, the township residents already pay for in their county taxes.
Okay. Oh, I forgot to ask you, how long
Also, JP Services, municipal court, taxpayers in the Woodlands already pay for JP. Why would you again pay for municipal services? Or else are you gonna contract back with the county for that?
One quick question.
Yes.
How many years were you in the newspaper business?
I was in the newspaper business for around a quarter century. Graduated in '93, left in 2018 from HCN. That doesn't include my internships and part-time jobs while in college.
Thank you.
On your questionnaire, there was a question, what's your position on a homestead over 65 and disabled exemptions available to the residents of the township? You said you'd work towards ensuring a homestead exemption for all property owners and follow the lead of other taxing entities in the Woodlands, such as Montgomery County, the MUDs, and Montgomery County Hospital District, which have provided homestead exemptions yet don't have the benefit of collecting sales tax revenue to offset those costs. So I'm guessing from that, and I want your opinion on this, that it's okay to do the homestead exemptions for their homes, but you're gonna make it up for it with taxes, with sales taxes.
Well, the good model in the Woodlands is that property taxes can be offset by sales tax revenue. That keeps the cost down for the residents. Right now, the residents pay 80% of the property taxes in the Woodlands, 20% is commercial. It's about, basically, I think it's around 35–36% of the overall annual revenue comes from property taxes, and around 44–45% comes from sales tax revenue. Yes, sales tax revenue is a big benefit to the Woodlands Township because the residents especially, because that can offset their property taxes. The county doesn't have that benefit. The Montgomery County Hospital District doesn't have that benefit. The MUDs do not have that benefit of collecting sales tax revenue.
So do you think they should be able to have, I mean, the way I'm reading this, it's like the others should be able to have sales
No,
taxes to
no,
be able to
I'm
do that.
saying, I'm saying that because the township has that benefit, so why are they the only entity in the Woodlands that's not offering a homestead exemption to help offset the property tax burden on the residents?
Okay.
They have other sources of revenue.
What is the current precinct 3 budget for services that's allocated or dedicated to the Woodlands? Dollar amount?
Well, there's not a specific amount dedicated to the Woodlands, it's all precinct 3. We don't divide it up by the Woodlands.
What's the
and
total
Montgomery
budget for
County.
precinct 3 for the entire precinct?
Yeah, it's, I think it's around $6.5 million.
$6.5 million?
Yes.
So could we safely say 80% of that is the Woodlands?
There's a lot of work on the east side of the highway right now, Rayford Road.
60%?
I don't know a percentage of work that you're talking that the crews, the road and bridge crews do in the Woodlands versus over.
Well, let's
on the
say
side.
80% then, go on the high side. 80% of 6 million would be, I think, what, 4.2 million? And let's say that the county, precinct 3, gets a broom up their butt and decides to give no money sharing to the Woodlands, should incorporate. What percentage tax increase would that be, you think?
Tax increase to the Woodlands
Yeah,
for,
or
well,
for $4 million,
so,
more than 1%.
it's going to be about 2 cents because right now.
So we're talking about a 2-cent increase.
Right, because it's about a penny for every $2 million in property tax revenue.
Okay. So that being a 2-cent increase, the only other additional expenses you've talked about were things like the sheriff's cars. And our understanding is Rand Henderson already agreed to turn those over to the Woodlands that they incorporated. The other issue would be the equipment you spoke of that County Commissioner Nowak currently has. Of course, that'd be capitalized. How much annually additionally do you think that is?
Well, it's over a few years, I mean, when you replace that equipment every so
So
often.
$3 million more a year?
Initially, I would say that they're probably gonna spend $1.5 to $2 million on capital improvements.
So all
for
told,
the road and
we're
ditch.
talking about like $6 million. And currently, with the county budget being over 300 million, that's less than 2% of the total county budget. But for the Woodlands, it sounds like it might be, like you said, a 2-cent increase. It hardly sounds like that's a huge amount, to resist incorporating.
Well, it doesn't include the annual maintenance of the roads, it doesn't include any.
No, I thought that the amount you said
well,
included
we
the
said-
roads.
You talked about capital improvement, but say, like Woodlands Parkway,
Right.
like you get an emergency where you get a shift in the joints and you have to repair that in the middle, or the major road projects such as widening of Kirkendall Road, or the Gosling Bridge, or the widening of Lake Woodlands, or the widening of Woodlands Parkway that just happened. It's millions
Any
of
dollar
dollars
amount on
in
any of that?
projects. Well, Gosling Bridge, that's a partnership between Precinct 4, Harris County, and Precinct 3, Montgomery County, which is a total of around $9 million for that project.
Right.
Montgomery County, Precinct 3 is committed to $4 million for that project. However, both those sides encompass the Woodlands, so that's $9 million for the Woodlands. Probably at least $6 million for the widening of Kirkendall Road, around $2 million for the widening of Lake Woodlands. Woodlands Parkway was around a $6 million project, but that one is already completed.
All of that out of a $4 million precinct 3 budget?
No, now those, like Conroe just, the council up there just approved a $23 million bond for road improvements up at the industrial park. These would probably have to look at funding those through a bond here in the Woodlands.
Okay. David?
The Commissioner's Court represents the county at the Houston Galveston Area Council, at the Transportation Policy Council. And, this last call for projects for funding, we got 24 million versus, you could easily say we probably should have got 80, but the Commissioner's Court fails to represent the you know, the citizens of Montgomery County on the TPC. They never, most of the time, they never bother showing up. I don't think the engineering department has showed up for over a year. So, how are we gonna balance that with, you working for a commissioner, and now you're gonna be on the, you know, on the Woodlands Council, and Woodlands is suffering because of the failure of the Commissioners Court. I mean, you know, Woodlands had probably $7 million worth of projects that were not approved because Montgomery County doesn't participate. So how do you balance that, being an employee of the county versus, you know, a representative on the board representing all the people of the Woodlands? How do you balance that? How do we get the county commissioners to do their job when it comes to getting federal and state funding for road projects in the county?
Yeah, I think that when you're talking federal and state funding, we need to hold everybody accountable, from our U.S. rep to our state rep and state senator to our county commissioners. I think that the benefit of the Woodlands being unincorporated is that it has at least a piece right now of 3 of the commissioner precincts plus the county judge. You have a strong voting block here. You have a pretty strong board that has respect, and it's a matter of working those partnerships and relationships to get the projects that are needed.
So why weren't they funded? The 7 projects none for the Woodlands were funded.
Which
With all that cooperation, why didn't that happen?
Well, you're going up against other communities that also need funding. I mean, right now, the commissioners probably would need to come together and decide which projects they want to pursue in order to get.
So they haven't
funding
done
from
that, you're
MCTP.
saying? That's why it's left on the table, that
No.
they can't agree?
No, we just had recent election. You've got new commissioner, you have a new county judge, and certainly I believe that they will work to get the projects and the funding that they need to get some of these projects done. The Woodlands in South Montgomery County, the projects have been going well. From Lake Woodlands, you will see the interchange be done here at I-45 and Robinson Road, as well as Lake Woodlands. Those are all on the table to be completed. There are, you know, the communication regarding the Research Forest project. There was an agreement with the township to pull that effort off the board and basically embark on another study to determine what's the best project moving forward, or to help the mobility along Research Forest toward I-45. But that also includes City of Shenandoah, and then on the other side it includes Precinct 4. You know, the township and Precinct 3 have been working together on projects, as well as the Woodlands Road Utility District in the past, to get projects done, such as the Kirkendall Bridge.
But those projects included no federal or state funds because we didn't ask for any.
Right. There was discussion about the Research Forest Drive project moving forward for TIP funding, but the project wasn't agreed upon by all entities, so it was pulled off the table.
Well, can I interject right here?
You give them
While we're
next
on
turn.
that subject?
You bet.
Because if the commissioners are not showing up, the representative, you know, the Woodlands is out. You know, they're out of getting any money, you know, from the programs that David just listed, and.
Whereas if incorporated,
Yeah, if you're.
They'd have a
incorporated,
representative.
You could, but nonetheless, still, how hard are you gonna be able to push Precinct 3 commissioners since you're working in that office?
Right, and so you've got one representative on the board down there on the commission. If you've got representation from the Woodlands, are they gonna have support from the county, or are they gonna have support from Shenandoah, Oak Ridge, depending on where it is? It needs to be a team effort to get the funding in Montgomery County, no matter what area you're gonna get. And the numbers help when you're going up against a large entity like Houston, you know, and Harris County, where you've got several members on that HGAC, and so numbers count. So do you want to be one, or do you want to be a handful?
well, the current team has failed completely, though. Not only that, the entire county got the lowest percentage of road projects approved of any other county in HGAC. So it sounds like you're saying, Well, they could do better, certainly, but the Woodlands could do better if it represented itself, couldn't it, if it were incorporated?
I don't know. I think that you need to work with the individuals that you have on Commissioners Court, who have contacts down there. I think that you've got a better chance when you've got an army more than one.
Well, even if you're in alignment with precinct 3 commissioner, you know, you're still up against these other guys.
That's right.
You know, and to be able to persuade them is gonna be tough.
Plus, if
Anyway,
they don't show and the Woodlands representative does show, that's an advantage right there, right? If the county representative doesn't bother going, the Woodlands representative does, well, that's gonna get a lot more done than right now. We have no representation from the Woodlands. I mean, is there anything wrong with that logic?
I think that there is representation with the Woodlands. I think that there was, I think that Precinct 3, I think that has done a good job in representing the Woodlands.
Oh, the HGAC, I mean,
In projects. Well, certainly there was one that was pursued last time, but, you know, with the agreement that, well, I guess not an agreement that everybody came to regarding what the actual project was, it was pulled from the table.
uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay,
David, your time's up.
back to the question that Bob asked about homestead exemptions and so forth. The question actually asks about what's your position on homestead over 65 and disabled. All you addressed was homestead. Are you opposed to exemptions for disabled and over 65?
No, I support the over 65 exemption. My concern is that if the Woodlands incorporates and the property tax rate increases dramatically, that the senior homestead would be frozen at that rate, and the seniors actually would be paying a higher property, higher property taxes than they are now with their current property tax rate and exemption.
Okay, so you do support the over 65. What about the disabled?
I do, absolutely. Support
Okay.
disabled, support veterans, support senior exemption, yes.
Okay. And on the previous question about Woodlands reaching full residential build out, you mentioned a number of things for revenue enhancement. Virtually everything that you list here is going to bring more traffic, which is going to create more traffic obstacles, more traffic congestion and so forth. Do you have a remedy for that?
Well, a majority of the shopping, hotels, entertainment is right by the highway, with the exception of the Woodlands Resort and Conference.
Which is already congested.
Right, in
traffic
this
is
area,
already
right,
congested.
right. So you have the widening project that will be starting on Lake Woodlands. You have the interchange project at I-45, Robinson Road / Woodlands Parkway, which will help get traffic in and out. But certainly that's congestion at the beginning, or the entrance to the Woodlands. It's to keep the visitors out of the residential areas so that the residents can enjoy their communities, their parks, their pools.
Okay. And following on, in the question about if the Woodlands residents vote to incorporate, tax obligations will be reduced. And you talk about local property tax increase depends upon how the township can work with county and MUDs. Partnering with the county would require additional service contracts. The partnering obviously is very much up in the air. What can you tell us about how that works in the context of Conroe? Because they would face the same thing. How does Conroe partner? Is that done effectively? Is that at a big cost to Conroe?
If you look, Conroe's tax rate, in addition to the fact that Conroe does not have a homestead exemption, if you look at the same value home in Conroe versus the Woodlands, versus the county tax right now, individuals in Conroe are paying more in taxes than they are in their county tax rate. City taxes higher than county taxes because they're paying for, like I said, they just passed a $23 million road bond for projects. They have their own road maintenance, they do their own water and sewer, their own drainage. So I don't know what partnership they have with the county other than, when they've agreed on some abatements there and some other government structures. And I don't think it's really panned out for the residents in Conroe regarding what their property tax rate and overall property tax obligation is.
Okay, Dennis.
Okay, you started with the county in an operator position, is that right?
Yes,
Yes, I saw that on Shovel Hammer.
right.
So was that a wheelbarrow shovel type job, or what did you do then?
Yeah, when I went over there, sure, I was working with the road and bridge crew when I first started out, learning.
And is that part of a training program that everybody goes through in the county? Or were you just there temporarily, or?
I was there temporarily.
Most folks don't do that?
It was my first county job.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
I guess
don't
what
know.
I'm asking, did you work in various departments like accounting, bookkeeping, things like that, before you got into this position?
No.
So you just started there and then you got into this position?
Yes.
Have you been in any jobs, or do you now have anything at all to do with the contract, like you mentioned, the courts and JPs and constructions and stuff like that?
I do not have any contracts with,
With the contracts with the Woodlands? The Woodlands
No.
contracts with the county for these services?
the Woodlands contracts with the county right now for law enforcement. They contract with the constable's office, they contract with the sheriff's office. They do not contract with the precinct 3 commissioner's office for anything. The road maintenance, road improvements, ditches along the roads, that's all the responsibility of precinct 3.
Even in the city, right? Or
Pardon me,
even
in the township, yes.
Except for the road.
Right, well, pardon, yeah. well,
And that's in the
but-
township.
but right, but precinct 3 responsibilities, the road improvements in the Woodlands, yes.
So there's no contract relationship between the township
No
and
contract
precinct 3?
between precinct 3 commissioner's office and the township, that's correct.
Okay. As a city, would there be for dump trucks and?
Well, right now, regarding the agreement, there are no commitments to any contracts, but there could be contracts if agreed upon between Commissioners Court and the city, if the Woodlands incorporates, they could contract for maintenance,
And if they contracted at JP, that would be a contract with the county?
correct. But I don't have anything to do with JP's office.
Okay.
We got about 20 minutes
Okay.
left. How would you, in your position right now as a county employee, and if you're on the township board, or eventually city council, I guess they would do another election, but if you're on the board, how would you resolve potential conflicts of interest with contracts involving vendors that contract with both the county and township, where there may be the perception of a partiality to vendors that maybe you've worked with in the past or are working with now, you know?
Right, so, the contractors who I work with right now, asphalt, concrete, engineering firms that design roads, that help with some drainage. The Woodlands Township is not responsible for any of those. I don't know of any engineering firm, asphalt company or concrete company that has a contract with the Woodlands or does business with the Woodlands that I currently work with out in the field.
But if the Woodlands became a city, wouldn't that be an issue then, a potential conflict? If you're on the city, transition from the board to the city council?
So certainly, look, I built my career on integrity, ethics, transparency, okay? If any conflicts or potential conflicts arise, I'm going to disclose those conflicts and recuse myself from discussion and the vote. It's no different than any of the sitting board members. There were 3 who recused themselves from the discussion and the vote on the Alight tax abatement when that company moved from one location to another location in the Woodlands and received a tax abatement on a vote of, basically, I think it was 3-1. 3 abstained. I think 2 were there for the final vote. It's no different than when you've had development company individuals who have sat on the board in the past, when you've had chairmen or heads of nonprofit groups in the Woodlands that have sat on that board, on churches. I will do what I've always done, maintain the highest level of integrity, ethics, and transparency in any conflicts that
So,
arise.
so if you recuse yourself, out of 7, that makes it 6, then you got a 3-3 tie. What happens then?
A 3-3
I
tie.
mean, not, yeah, 3 against 3, then what happens? I mean, that may come up more often than not, and then,
Well, it's up to the 6 members to decide. It could have happened with the vote on a light also. It could have been a 2-2 vote, and they would have had to figure it out. If one person recuses himself or herself, no matter what it is, there could be a tie. It's not just in the situation that it could arise if I'm there and have a conflict.
okay.
Okay, on the questionnaire, you had put in what are the 3 main attributes that make you most qualified. Experience and knowledge is number 1, number 2 is integrity. And in that paragraph, you said that I have earned the respect of leaders and community members at all levels, as evidenced by the trust in me to moderate numerous political forums and debates throughout the county. Could you name some of those that you've done?
Some of the, I've moderated forums for the Woodlands Township, for Conroe City Council, for state senator, for US rep, for district judge positions, county court at law judge positions, county commissioner, pretty much every level of local government representation.
Who was that with?
Pardon me?
Who was that with? Who were you representing when you were doing that?
Who was I representing?
Or what organization were you doing the vetting? Where were the,
Well, I'm happy to help
Mediation
any organization.
I'm not asking if you're, what you're willing to do. Who
Right,
is it?
so it's been the chamber. I've done it for years ago for the League of Women Voters when they were here. I've done it for the city of Montgomery. Just whatever entity. I've done it for Willis ISD school board. You know, I'm happy to do. I was happy to do it for whoever wanted it in whatever way.
I'm a little confused on should the township be funding nonprofit organization events such as interfaith luncheons, senior pickup services, education for tomorrow luncheons, etc., with tax dollars? And you kind of switched it over into public transportation as a service initiative of the township, and senior transportation services are reasonable and should seem to fall under public transportation. Where in the Constitution or the requirements of the county or anybody require us to have public transportation?
I said that it was an initiative of the Woodlands, and that's one that I would support, senior transportation. They have initiative of public transportation, whether it's through the trolleys, through the buses, and that is something that I would support in terms of helping with senior transportation.
That's, all of those, the trolleys are federally funded as well, right? Partially federally funded.
Yeah,
Right.
so, right, but my question was, what would I support in terms of nonprofit, and that was what I said I was.
So you wouldn't support the interfaith luncheons and the lunches for the seniors?
I don't necessarily think, I don't think that the township should be funding luncheons.
Okay.
Precinct 2, Precinct 2 County Commissioner appears to be hell-bent on putting an FM 1960 type thoroughfare straight through the Woodlands. You know, now he's got some other game he's playing, buying some land for roads that would basically be like what we fought against a few years ago, just another version of it. So my question to you is, what do you think would better protect the culture, the future and your vision for the Woodlands? The county, because it's the county that's trying to ruin it right now, or incorporation?
I think a combination of the Woodlands Township and the county working together to provide the best.
So you think right now they would stop Precinct 2 from doing what he promised he wouldn't do when he ran for office, now he's doing it anyway, and somehow the township and Precinct 3 can talk Precinct 2 out of it? Is that a realistic expectation?
The voters rejected the bond that included the Parkway
That's right.
extension in 2015.
And yet he's back on it now. And it's still on the road plan for the HGAC.
And that's where I think that the Woodlands ought to work with all the commissioners to get those projects removed.
Would incorporation just bring that to a dead stop?
No.
Why
Because it's a matter of who owns the roads on the other side of the 1488 or on the other side of 2978. Does the Woodlands have the ability to stop it from extending to the road? You know, to me, the best.
Because the
way to
Woodlands
do
put
it-
speed bumps on it?
I don't.
Or,
the
you know, close
county doesn't
roads,
put speed-
close
yeah,
roads.
Yeah, I guess you could put bollards out there just to stop traffic from
Yeah.
coming in, but you're preventing traffic from going out. And if you do that, say down Kirkendall, are individuals going to be able to access all the stores and amenities along 1488 that are so convenient for individuals over in Alden Bridge, Sterling Ridge? Are they gonna be able to access the?
So you're saying most would come for the business, not being headed to I-45?
You were asking about blocking those off, and I'm
Yeah.
talking about the convenience.
To keep the people
of
that are
the
just trying to
Woodland-
cut
right, and I'm
through.
talking about the conveniences of the Woodlands residents to use the retail businesses and stores on the backside of the Woodlands, whether it's along 1488 or 2978. I don't think walling off those roads would benefit the Woodlands residents. I think working with the elected officials, flexing your muscle as a voting block and getting the individuals elected into office who you want, who can work with you to remove those roads from the major thoroughfare plan is the best way to go about it.
So voting Precinct 2 out is really the better likelihood of success than incorporation, you're saying, for that particular purpose?
Well, I'm not saying to vote anybody in or out, I'm saying,
Well,
I'm saying to get the people elected
acknowledging
who you can work with.
Precinct 2 is gonna
Right,
do
and
it,
so-
right?
Right, so is the elected official in Precinct 2 willing to work with the
No,
Woodlands
the answer to that
Township?
is no. I mean, we know that. The answer, right? Are you saying he might actually agree to stop doing that?
Well, I think Commissioner Riley has worked with the township and Shenandoah on the
Sure.
research forest
One other project, yeah.
aspect of it. Right, he also represents individuals out in West Montgomery County.
That's right.
Who he has to serve as well.
Exactly. His focus isn't the Woodlands.
And the developers, the new
Yeah.
developers that.
So you understand, that I would say alone is the biggest driver to incorporation,
Yeah, and
is to
and
stop that from
Right.
ruining, you know, what the Woodlands is.
I like the fact that the Woodlands residents have a piece of 3 elected county commissioners and the county judge.
As
4 out of
opposed
5
to-
members. They have at least a part of the year, if not more, of 4 of the 5 elected members of Commissioners Court. And I don't think there's really another community that can say that.
That's true. I'm just saying, it's not doing the Woodlands any good right now regarding the after 1960
So are
project.
you looking at that as the fault of the Commissioners Court, or is that the fault of the leaders in the Woodlands to make those relationships work?
From what I have seen, it's Precinct 2, because the guy promised he wouldn't do it, yet here he is. If someone's gonna lie to your face, to the voters' faces to get elected, how can we expect him, and you know, for whatever reason he's doing it, what could the other people and leaders of the Woodlands Township do to stop Riley? They've tried that, and he will not stop. That's the problem. So that wasn't really a question. I realize, I'm sorry. You're free to comment. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, here's what I said. I've built relationships with a lot of people through my 20 years here. Okay, I've been on the same side as many of the individuals and on the opposite side. Many of you in this room we've seen eye to eye on issues, but we have disagreed on other issues. And it's a matter of you know, bridging those gaps and coming to an agreement that benefits everybody. And, you know, I believe that I can do that serving on the township board. And that's what I'm gonna bring to the table. And I don't think it should involve incorporation in hundreds of millions of dollars in property taxes from the residents to accomplish that.
So where do you justify hundreds of millions of dollars of increased
Over the course
taxes?
of, over the course of.
100 years?
Over the course of
Well-
50 years, if you're talking, well, right now, you've got, till 2057, you've got about 37 years. If it's 3 million a year, that's over $100 million,
Sure.
if it's 3 million a year.
Dave,
Well, let's change topics.
Okay.
You know, we've been, the Woodlands has benefited from a township council that has consistently reduced the tax rate as the property values have went up. Probably of any entity in Montgomery County, they've done the best job in that regard. But now, we're at maybe at the end of that cycle, so the budget is tight, that we have this new state law, about 3.5%. So we're at this point now where, you know, there's discussion about bump it up a little bit, keep it the same. So if we're gonna continue in that path, where would you adjust services?
Right, so you're exactly right. Since becoming a township, the board has benefited from the fruits of growth, property tax rate, appraisals, in order to be praised for keeping the tax rate at or below the effective tax rate in most years, okay? And now that they are seeing leveling off of sales tax revenue and potentially appraisals, but certainly with the property tax increase cap now out of Austin, they're gonna have to tighten their belts. They're gonna have to become more creative in how they handle their budget and how they basically project sales tax revenue and sales tax growth, okay? The business that I was in for years, and when I took over, yeah, I'll say, when they told me that I was gonna be executive editor of Houston Community Newspapers and Media Group back in 2012, they said, you got the job, we're slashing your staff by 33%, you still have to produce the same amount of content for online, or actually grow it, and in print, to help grow revenue back to a sustainable level, okay? I responded, I came up with a plan that helped grow readership online, maintain print readership, and grow revenue. Grow revenue so much so that I could grow my staff back 15%. So have I been able to work in limited budgets and limited revenue projections? Certainly. Okay, I didn't live high on the hog when I was put in a leadership role, and that's why I'm the one who can step in now that they're having to tighten their belt. Now they're really, oh my gosh, sales tax revenue isn't increasing by leaps and bounds. What do we do? You know, we're getting capped at the state level. It's not fair. Well, you work around it. You get the job done. You don't give increases in that are above the COLA rate when you didn't meet your revenue projections. Okay, you don't stockpile $16 million for incorporation that hasn't even been voted on. Another $200,000 this year alone, $208,000 for the incorporation study. You find ways to limit your discretionary expenses and work within your budget to provide the services and amenities that these residents expect.
yeah.
Okay, one of the questions had to do with which current township board member you identify with most and why. You declared yourself an independent thinker and did the crawfish very well. So I'm not gonna let you off the hook. I'm gonna ask you to rephrase the question this way. Which of the 7 current board members votes most like you would?
Yeah, it's curious. So before I got out of the vehicle, I was listening and watching the video of tonight's special meeting to figure out which way they were going to go on the tax rate. Okay, so I knew coming in here what would happen, but before the tax assessor collector could explain where they were at, I left the car. the vehicle, but I do know this. They did not come to a consensus. So at the end of the month, they will automatically have the effective tax rate, okay? Because 3 individuals stood their ground, and 4 individuals who claim to be resident advocates voted for a tax increase and the current tax rate, which would increase taxes. Now, y'all believe in limited government and fiscal responsibility, okay? So the resident advocates wanted a tax rate increase or a tax increase. So you ask me, who do I identify with today? Well, right now, based on the way the vote was, it's hard to believe, but the 3 individuals who supported the effective tax rate, as I came out and said that I support the effective tax rate because it won't change the upcoming year budget, and we can work to ensure that the services and amenities, including fire, are taken care of. Well, right now, I would say that I associate myself more with the individuals who supported the effective tax rate. It depends on what the item is, but right now, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Okay, I'll let Dennis have it. I hope we get another turn.
Well, I'll be fast. You know, the obvious concern is whether your position as a county employee would create a conflict of interest if you're on the Woodlands board. And you say you don't have much to do with contracts and things. If you got a promotion, what would you be doing then? And would that create a worse problem?
No. Now, I deal with contracts. I work with individuals who are under contract. The individuals and entities that I work with who are under contract, they don't have any contracts that I know with the township, okay? Because the work that I do and the services that I work with are not provided by the township, all right? With the commissioner's office, where would I grow?
Where does the ladder go?
Well, with you know, the job that I have with Precinct 3, I would continue to do. I don't see myself moving up the ladder in Precinct 3. I'm charged with the responsibilities of project management, and that's what I want to continue to do. Again, like I say, there have been several individuals who have served on the township board who have had conflicts. And I would not sacrifice my integrity, my ethics, and transparency for anything, especially not a vote on the township board.
Okay.
So and we're pretty short, this may be the last question, or I may throw it back to Bill, but how is it that this vote that you're talking about, that 4 members are gonna raise the taxes, how did they get in that situation? Was there an event? Was it poor planning? Was it an unexpected event that caught them where they expected revenue to come in and didn't come in over and above, say, sales taxes?
Well, they have blamed it on the flattened and decreased sales tax revenue this year for their shortage. You know, certainly they need to plan for fire protection and fire equipment moving forward. But again, you have $92.2 million in reserves, okay? And about $60.6 million of that is non-discretionary. They have $30.6 million, I believe, in discretionary funds. Over half that is set aside for incorporation. Those funds can be used to fund some of the infrastructure that they're talking about needing improvements in. So was it poor planning a year, 2 years, 3 years ago? Were they projecting flattened revenue and sales tax? Were they projecting slower rates of growth in the property taxes and revenue from that? Maybe we need to look back 2, 3, 4 years and see whether they had the foresight to plan for this. But they're in that situation now, and moving forward, you have to address it.
Wasn't there, wasn't there like $1 million in shortfalls from the comptroller's office in internet service fees that were
Well-
supposed to come in that didn't
Right,
come in?
and so in the future, will they collect sales tax revenue from internet fees? If they do, that would be certainly a boost in sales tax revenue.
Yeah.
Right, it did not go through. The expectation would be that it would go through at some point, and some sales tax revenue from internet sales would come through.
So aren't there franchise fees right now, like, quite substantial that goes to Howard Hughes instead of the Woodlands? That if incorporated, those franchise fees would come to the city?
Franchise fees, I'm familiar with the fact that utilities, there would be franchise fees. Are those a pass-through fee that would be passed along to the residents instead of absorbed? I don't know.
Let's see what we got time-wise. 4 minutes, Dell. You said you had a follow-up
Yes.
to what you had.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. It's all along the same lines, effective tax rate and so forth. Going back to an earlier comment, tax-wise, if, the Woodlands currently with its .22 is substantially better than Conroe. So is an increase, a small increase, all that onerous? Especially if you consider what services are provided. In other words, are you getting bang for your buck with a slight tax increase? Or is it much ado about nothing?
I've raised my children here. I think that the community has the best of both worlds in terms of the services it receives and the amenities we have. I've said before, I would not support incorporation if it raised taxes at all. So I do not support any tax increase to incorporate.
Okay, and my question was not on incorporation. My question was, like I said, the current situation is the Woodlands has a lower tax rate than Conroe. So as long as they stay below Conroe, is it all that bad?
As a township,
Right.
well, certainly, because the service responsibilities of the Woodlands aren't near what they are in Conroe. So I don't think that the Woodlands needs to raise its taxes at this point to continue its level of services that it is responsible for providing.
Okay, I guess that's the key response that I was looking for. Okay.
I got one to plug in on that one. Anadarko, we don't know what's gonna happen with Anadarko.
Oxy.
Same thing. It's,
With the buildings, and
Well, not
whether
with the
they're
buildings.
occupied,
If they
whether they're
leave.
occupied, right?
Yeah, if they decide to move their headquarters out of here, that's gonna lose a big tax base.
That
And
would
if
be a
you
sales tax
don't,
hit.
if you're not looking ahead for that possibility and planning for it, the bottom's gonna drop out, and then what are you gonna do? Because there's not gonna be any money there.
Right, it's anywhere from $2 to $3 million in sales tax revenue from what people have been saying, and.
Is that for the commercial part of it, or is that for the residential part? Because many of those people live here.
So that's
Could
the
be
sales
looking
tax
as well.
revenue. That does not account for any home sales, whether individuals would be moving out of here or not. But based on the appraisals and how they've grown at a healthy rate here, I don't anticipate that it's going to be too much of an issue if individuals move. And certainly if they're driving down to Greens Point, if that's where they're working now, I don't think anybody, or very few people, would move out of the Woodlands just because they're commuting to Greens Point. The quality of life here is too good just for that small commute.
It doesn't necessarily mean Greens Point, though. If those people move and they lose their jobs, they're not here anymore, the housing market's gonna get flooded. And the appraisals, the houses are gonna start selling for less. That'll take down the appraisals, that'll take down the tax base as well.
Not necessarily the appraisals.
Yeah.
Well, if appraisals have to
Thanks.
follow along with what the sales are. Yeah.
Well, not in this county.
Well, they're supposed to. Anyway.
All right, that concludes the questions, and if you'd like to close out with up to 5 minutes, you're welcome to it.
Again, I'm Andy DuBois. I'm running for position 7 on the Woodlands Township Board of Directors. I've lived here for 20 years. I raised my children here, have developed many friendships. I care about this community. I've loved it, I've lived it, and I want to preserve it for generations to come. That's why I'm running for the Woodlands Township Board, to protect residents from increased costs and to allow them to get the full story on incorporation and ensure that all of the amenities and services that you receive and enjoy today continue in the future.
Great, thanks for coming in, appreciate it, good luck in the campaign.